So you have the honor of being the final speaker, so we have to try and wake everyone up.
Yeah, I hope everyone's still awake.
Can I ask first about your own background? I mean, sadly, it's still quite unusual to meet a woman in a position like yours. Could you tell us how you got to be doing what you do?
Sure. My personal background is that I was an engineer by training. Grew up pretty much in the US, had an engineering degree from Berkeley, and worked for IBM as an engineer, and immediately realized I wasn't smart enough to continue to be an engineer, so I decided to head to Wall Street and start my investment banking career in the mid-80s. I worked in, I think, 4 different Wall Street banks. Started with Goldman Sachs, followed by primarily Merrill Lynch and Deutsche Bank, all the way until 1999. So 11 years, and in between 2 more years of business school. And then decided that I've done my share of investment banking and want to do something very different. Because I think throughout my career, I was able to see companies created up to the IPO stage. And from IPO, we help companies to go through the IPO process, and after IPO, we help them to continue to grow. So that's been my training up to 1999. But I was always very curious when I met these successful entrepreneurs, how did they make it from this beginning stage all the way to IPO? And based on that sort of a interest and a lot of interaction with them, I decided to come to the other side, which is really the investment side, rather than the sell side, the investment banking side, to really help entrepreneurs to grow their business from the beginning all the way to IPO. And I felt that kind of bridged the gap of my experience of see how companies are created successfully from day one all the way to a great company. So started in 1999, I decided to join Venture TDF, which was headquartered in Singapore and in Silicon Valley, and started my venture capital career. And I feel extremely fortunate to start this career 10 years ago. I felt that, being one of the earlier VCs, we really have I think the experiences to see various cycles, ups and downs, and see how companies get created, become successful, how some companies, didn't do so well, and learn lessons from it.
And what are you doing in China?
In terms of our fund?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, that question. What are you doing in China? Yeah, in terms of your fund.
Yeah, so for the last 10 years, we have founded 3 different venture capital firms, 3 different venture capital funds, but really the same team. Started in 2000 was Venture TDF, right? We had the first fund, we invested in 15 companies, and 10 of them have successful exits. And in 2005, we did kind of spin-off. We became TDF Capital, which is all the GPs are residing in China. And then started 2007, we decided that after understanding, the successful ingredients of a venture capital firm, we felt that what we want to do is really to partner with a platform that has global resources that can continue to help Chinese company to become not just domestic leaders, but potentially global leaders. And we feel like by partnering with Kleiner Perkins US, we have much better global resources to do that. So what do we do in China? We're continue to be venture capitalists, continue to manage funds, invest in great companies.
Can you name some of the companies? What areas are you interested in, and what types of companies do you want to invest in?
Sure. Our current fund, I think everyone's probably pretty familiar with. We currently have $500 million under management, and combining our U.S. fund, our U.S. side managed about $3 billion. In China, our areas of investment focus include 4 areas, primarily clean tech, about 40% of our capital, and the next sector would be consumer, TMT, and followed by life science.
Can you talk about some of your clean tech projects?
Sure. So for our China clean tech investments, so far we made about close to 9 ventures. We made investments, 2 investments in the wind component space. We actually made these investments in early 2006, when we realized that we think the Chinese government would be quite aggressive in launching the wind sector as alternative energy. We invest in HT Blade, the largest wind blade manufacturer in China. We invest in another leading inverter converter component company called Sungrow. Both companies are doing extremely well, highly profitable with their own IP. We also invest in a company we're pretty excited about. It's called Green Bio. It's a company that has a leading biodegradable plastic materials inventions in China. Very similar to a company called Metabolics. Metabolics is a company that is in a comparable stage with about no more than $5 million revenue, but already listed on NASDAQ with $500 million market cap, because people believing the materials, the biodegradable materials for plastics is probably the future.
So clean tech does actually make money, does it? Because, I mean, it's one of those things, the last few years, it's become so fashionable that I start to get suspicious of it. Everybody's talking about clean tech. But your companies are actually profitable.
Yeah, so when we invest in our 9 ventures in clean tech companies, I would say, with the exception of one company, they were all pre-profit. But to date, I think 5 companies are profitable. And 4 of them are on the way for IPO listing.
What about life sciences?
Yes, you can make money.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. What about life sciences? Because that's something, today and yesterday we haven't touched on very much, I think, in this conference. It's tended to be much more internet, mobile, etc. What do you do in life sciences?
Okay, I like to combine life science to include healthcare services, because it's one area we made 2 investments recently. So life sciences is a sector that I personally don't have any expertise, but we have a partner from the U.S. who's mainland Chinese and decided to relocate back to China, Dr. Lee. So he's been really helping us to focus and expand our investment practice in this area. In life science, what we have done in the past is we invest in a leading orthopedic device company that is bound for NASDAQ listing today. And we have another company that is one of the largest CRO company. Instead of doing the chemical CRO like WuXi Pharma, this is biology CRO. It's a company based in Nanjing, also profitable, highly profitable last year. We also invest in a couple pre-revenue life science company that have either preclinical pharma discovery research, or companies that are in the what we call white biotech area, where we use fermentation technology to help look for different type of applications.
Okay, I'm going to ask you one last question then. Again, going back to the beginning where I said, it's unusual to meet a woman in your position. How do you deal with the fact that it is quite a macho industry you're working in? It's quite a kind of guys' club. Is that ever a problem for you? And if it is, how do you deal with it?
I think maybe it goes back to the roots of my family education, that I was brought up very much of gender indifferent. Since I had an engineering background, I guess the entire environment that I have been experienced since from schooling days, elementary, all the way up to today, it's always, to me, a gender-free environment. And that might be too general for you, but to me, I believe that the training that I had in investment banking, which is even more macho, especially in the 80s and 90s than it is venture capital today. I think I'm used to it. I think there are definitely advantages and disadvantages of being a female in these kind of industries. But I think at the end of the day, there's so many opportunities, that by being a smart professional, irregardless of your gender, race, or age, I think you can find the success formula for yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Tina.
Thank you, Tina, and thank you, Jeremy.